So, Disney finally sent out screeners for New Mutants as it hits PVOD this week. You'll be able to purchase the film, both in stores as well as online, starting on Tuesday. So this is my non-spoiler review, and I'll do a spoiler review in the next day or so. Now, you know how some people say something is ahead of its time? Well, I feel New Mutants is behind the times. Josh Boone has made an X-Men movie that should have come out decades ago. To me, it's 1996's The Craft meets 1985's The Breakfast Club, which were quite revolutionary when they came out, but this is, a throwback. It just, you'll see, it just does not work. All right, now back then, although to this movie's credit, back then, most of the problems with New Mutants wouldn't have been problems. You'll notice I said most. There's one that's inexcusable. But anyway, yes, there are some tone-deaf jokes in the film. Back in 1996 or 1985, those jokes would have been considered problematic. I mean, they should have, but they wouldn't have been. But I don't think they're as offensive as they were made out to be when the film was released. I don't, especially when I think the film's lesbian romance is handled as well as it is to balance things out. And also, it's just such an obvious cliche what they're doing with the Ileana character. But, I mean, to me, the jokes are just dated and eye-rolling. I mean, they're just bad. They're just bad. It's like, talking, again, out of time. It's like talking to someone who's not with the times. And they're like, oh, we can still make these jokes, right? And you're like, no, you can't. And, so it's just weird. Ileana, by the way, of your grandpa. But anyway, also back then, it was totally normal to have so few VFX sequences because of budget restraints. And also, VFX just weren't as evolved back then. Also, not as many people were familiar with the X-Men, thanks to all the movies and animation and, those things just making more people interested in the characters. And so more people go and read the comics, right? Because, you might be like, well, these characters, the New Mutants haven't really been done in movies and TV before. But they've been alluded to. And again, since more and more people have gotten into X-Men, I think more people today are aware of the characters depicted here than they would have been back then. Because here, the movie dramatically ponders, what's everyone's power? What's the big secret? And you're sitting there and you're like, I know what the secret is. I mean, even if you don't know, people like me tell you before the movie comes out. I mean, that's just too antiquated of a question to ask these days. Because everybody's so interested and excited, which is great. But we all do our basic research. So to spend so much of the movie saying, what do you do? Also, in some cases, you're like, you also showed us in the trailer, so it's not that big a mystery. And then also being like, who runs this facility? And you're like, I know the answers to these questions. So it's boring for them to spend so much time on them, and it wastes precious time. As an hour-and-a-half movie, it's only an hour and a half, tries to compete with 7 to 10 hour streaming shows that are basically telling variations of the same story. And that's modern streaming shows, by the way, that look like they have way bigger budgets. I say look because New Mutants cost about $70 million to make, although I can't tell you where that money went. Perhaps it was in all the reshoots and stuff like that. I must have started out as a much cheaper film. But as I said, one thing about the film is inexcusable. And we'll talk about that in a moment, because you know what else is inexcusable? Not eating great food during a pandemic when amazing meals can be delivered right to your door for less than it costs to eat at a restaurant or even to go grocery shopping. I know. Also, I have an offer for you that will make it even less expensive. So yes, maybe Dr. Reyes would have been able to keep her charges in a better mood if she had ordered America's #1 meal kit. Hey kids, get excited. You would know what was coming today from HelloFresh because you would have placed the order in advance, just like I did. I'm very excited this week for my meal kits to arrive for chicken over garlic Parmesan spaghetti, Gouda Vibes burgers. Oh, there's even jokes. And then also pork tenderloin. That last one is a Hall of Famer recipe. I can't wait to try that. I can make all these meals in just 30 to 40 minutes. Then I get to sit down to my latest screener that I need to review with a hot, fresh, delicious meal that I have the honor of having made myself, with not too extra ingredients to throw away. If you're like myself and you're pandemicking alone or with not too many people, it's hard to make. You don't find yourself experimenting too much in the kitchen because you're like, I don't want to buy all these ingredients. I don't know what I'm going to do with all the extra ingredients. Well, here you get just enough to make the meal, and then you're done. And you have a delicious meal, not too much garbage. Also, HelloFresh offers you variety, not just with food, but you can also change which day of the week you need to get your delivery, or you can even skip a week if it's not convenient for you. Also, how great is it not to have to stress about what you're going to eat every night? HelloFresh helps you take the stress out of 3, 4, or 5 days a week. You get to pick the plan and customize it to your needs. So here's your offer. You go to HelloFresh.com/BTT90 and use code BTT90 to get a total of $80 off across 5 boxes and free shipping on your very first box. Again, that's go to HelloFresh.com/BTT90, use code BTT90, and you get $80 off across 5 boxes, including free shipping on your first box. All right, so now that your meals are taken care of, let's get back to the New Mutants. So I said that one thing is inexcusable for any time period, and that is that this movie is just too stripped down. It is not too expensive for a film from a major studio in a major franchise to actually film some of its characters' backstories. Let's go. You don't have to actually go to Scotland. You can do the Hollywood equivalent, but I would like to have seen scenes, that's, again, one of the most basic lessons in screenwriting is show, don't tell. And there's so much telling in this movie. Let's actually go to Scotland, Brazil, Kentucky, Russia, and Danny's Native American community in Colorado. Not for just like a minute in the middle of the night where we can't see anything. I'm on to you, Josh Boone. You're trying to save a buck. I mean, to be blessed with such a wonderful cast with so many interesting backstories and not utilize any of them or even really have that come out at all in the way the characters look or act is, I think, a really big missed opportunity. Also, the script never even addresses how people from different corners of the globe ended up at the same facility. When the X-Men, when these comics first came out, it was to diversify the appeal, globally in terms of people picking up the comic. And maybe that would have helped the appeal with this movie too, if it had, who thinks that Marvel just was like, it would be interesting if we had people from around the world in our comics. It wasn't just for fun. It was to get those audiences interested in the comics. Duh. That's why they so famously did an international cast for the second round of the X-Men, and that famous giant X-Men that came out after the the original school. It's so frustrating and stupid. All right, so anyway, also, how can any facility, good or evil, be run by a single person? No orderlies, no guards, not even a janitor or a cook. I was like, why does Roberto keep doing all the dishes? Why does he keep getting dish duty? He's like, I like it, leave me alone. But it was really weird that Alice Braga's tiny Dr. Cecilia Reyes, her power set, not enough here. Maybe if she was like a telepath, maybe I would have bought it. But that she could keep several young mutants captive, as well as convince them they were in a legit facility, was absolutely ridiculous. I'd be like, why does no one else work here? There aren't even robots working here with you. And why are we listening to you? It just didn't make any sense. So is New Mutants even worth watching? I have to say, even as an X-Men fan, that's a mighty tough call, especially at the price point that it's going to start out at. You've waited this long. I felt the acting was quite good across the board. I really did. Every single actor in this very teeny tiny cast did the best they could with the material that they were given, and that did make a difference. Anya Taylor Joy has gotten a lot of attention for being so spot on as Illyana, particularly visually. Acting-wise, she's unfortunately saddled with the cliche that her character is difficult in order to look cool. And it's not even done organically, it's just really cliche. And Anya Taylor Joy can only do so much with that character. Maisie, and especially it seems like, talk about like a step back. After having just seen her in the Queen's Gambit, you're like, why are we wasting our time with this? This is beneath her at this point, and what we want to see from her. Maisie Williams, though, does fantastic acting, very subtle performance. I was very impressed with it, as does Charlie Heaton. So what if he was playing Sabrina's boyfriend Harvey from the, again, I was like, I've already seen this. But he was very good. I thought he had some really nice moments. Blu Hunt also has a warmth to her that I felt particularly came across in her scenes with Williams. And to be fair to Boone, I did feel the script had some good moments. I liked the discussion of how New Mutants are dangerous. I was like, where's that movie? Because it sure ain't this one. And I also thought the motivations for Alice Braga's character were also really interesting. I thought that was well written, and Alice Braga did a good job with the material. I thought that stuff was interesting. I was like, there's something here. So no, this isn't a total waste of time, but unfortunately it's close to it. Josh Boone is about 25 to 35 years too late, and that's pretty darn late. Even when people do homages to different time periods in film today, there's still a modern sensibility to it, a modern twist to make it still entertaining today. You know, this movie just actually feels like it was made a really long time ago. And, you know, even then, I still don't think it, I mean, I think then it would have been like one of the first X-Men movies, so you'd be like, ooh, and that, but I mean, even, you know, you can watch The Craft and The Breakfast Club today, and they still stand up. But, you know, this isn't even like a great time capsule movie, quite frankly. It's sad. It saddens me to say it as an X-Men fan. You know, you would think I would get some joy from it being an X-Men fan. That would like create like a bare minimum of enjoyment guaranteed. But again, since it spent so much time asking questions that I already knew the answers to, that was unfortunately not the case. And so few action sequences and VFX scenes. Like, you've pretty much seen them all. So few. I was surprised that today they would make an X-Men or any kind of comic book movie or show that had so little action and VFX, considering what else is out there to compete with. All right, so that's my non-spoiler review of New Mutants. Do you plan to check it out now that you can watch it at home? Or did you already see it in theaters? Or are you gonna wait till you can rent it for cheaper? Write those thoughts down below. Stay tuned for my spoiler review, so hold your spoiler comments for then. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.